radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Today is Monday, November 18th, 2019. 322 days into the new year, just 43 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? We've got an amazing week lined up in front of us here on Fade to Black. Now, it's going down like this. Yes, there's lots of breaking news in ufology. I am going to get to all of that. What a crazy day it has been. And we're going to be discussing that here in a couple of minutes. And, of course, Billy Carson is on with us tonight. Now, this is night one of our Open Lines Week here on Fade to Black. We are going to do four straight nights of your calls and questions with some of the best and brightest minds of our community. Tonight, Billy Carson is here taking your phone calls. Tomorrow night, Travis Walton will be here all night long. Wednesday night, Whitley Strieber. And wrapping up the week for night 4 on Thursday is Richard Dolan. It doesn't get any better or bigger than that. What a great week on the show. Looking forward to it. All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight is night one of our Open Lines Week here on Fade to Black. 4 straight nights of your calls and questions with some of the best and brightest minds of our community. Tonight, it's Billy Carson. Billy is the founder of Forbidden Knowledge, the author of the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, and the expert host of Deep Space, a new original streaming series on Gaia. Carson's Forbidden Knowledge has over 2 million followers and subscribers throughout social media. We're going to talk more about that in just a bit. Billy is the founder of Forbidden Knowledge, Inc., and is the best-selling author of the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. He's an expert host and also revealing extraordinary technologies and their potential origins with the secret space program. He also serves as an expert host on Gaia's original series, Ancient Civilizations. Mr. Carson is the CEO of First Class Space Agency based out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Carson Space Agency is involved in research and development of alternative propulsion systems and zero-point energy devices. He is also the founder of Pantheon Elite Records. It is a contributor to Thrive Global and is a registered international journalist. Recently, Mr. Carson earned the Certificate of Science with an emphasis on neuroscience at MIT. Of course, his website is forbiddenknowledge.com. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Billy Carson. Billy, good evening, man. How you doing?
Good evening, man. Glad to be back on here. It's been, a few months. I'm happy to be back.
I would have you on every week, which we've done that in the past. Because you are doing so many different things and contributing not only to this community, but to the world. I mean, you've got your television programming, you're working on a movie, you're writing books, you're doing research all around the world. You're always on a plane. You probably spend more time in the air than you do on the ground, and you still find time for us here on Fade to Black. So I want to thank you for everything that you do for the community. It's been an amazing ride.
Thank you, man.
Now, you know what? We actually, the phone lines I'm going to open up in a second, 747-228-2051. And interacting with the audience is an amazing thing, and I really enjoy when you and I get to spend time together in public, and I get to kind of kick back and watch people gravitate to you with a list of questions. And you've got a lot of patience, man. You've got a lot of patience, and that's what you want to do, though. You want to get out there and kind of shake it up a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess maybe I'm not at the point yet in my career where, I'm walking around with bodyguards or whatever and keeping people away. But I just like to get out there with the people, man, and embrace them. They've embraced me, and answer as many questions as I possibly can. Shake hands, give out hugs, kiss the babies, whatever it takes. I just feel like they've given me so much. I'd like to give back as much of myself as I possibly could.
And here we go. The UFO question and ufology and this community, you just move along, and there's always the story of the moment. And I never get surprised when something breaks and there's something new. And here we have this situation today with these videos and these pictures that have surfaced on the web. I know you've had a chance to check them out. Before, I do want to ask you about those, but are you surprised about something like this surfacing?
To be honest with you, I'm not, because my team of anomaly hunters have been pulling up thousands and thousands of these kinds of images over the last 7 years, to the tune of now 58,000 documented anomalies that have made the news before. Maybe not as dramatic as the coelacanth footage, but it's been, we're kind of like numb to these kind of events happening, because we've been pulling up and finding these kind. Now, there's a couple of unique things about this versus what we've been finding: static images versus some of these video images that we found here, but whoever found these, and it's really amazing footage. But I'm kind of numb to it. I'm really excited about it, but I'm numb to like could this be real? I'm like, I think it is all real, in my opinion.
And let's start with the video from Third Phase of Moon. Mm-hmm. Now we have to assume out of the gate that this is just some really good CG imaging from a very talented animator that has created something that looks really cool. We start there, because if we start on the other side, that these videos are real, and it was shot inside of an alien spacecraft on the, orbiting Jupiter or Saturn or Mars. That's a pretty big leap, right? Should we start with the other side, that this is just a brilliant, well-done hoax?
Well, we can, I mean, it would take a lot of real high-quality, experienced professionalism to be able to create a hoax based on what I saw. And I've watched it now about 3 or 4 different times on a couple different devices as well. Just because of some of these very small nuances that you can, that give you the perception of reality in terms of dust particles, ice particles, spray, dust on glass. I mean, could it be a fake? Yes, it could be. But wow, what an amazing work. I mean, this guy, or people, whoever they are, if it is a fake, need to be hired by the top, Hollywood industry execs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's another part of this that, as I'm looking at it, look, I have an open mind, and I always say anything is possible. Yeah. So if we go with that side, we go with the open mind side, that this was shot from inside of a craft that is not our own. That's and where did the videos come from? If that is the case, how did they make it back to Earth? I don't know what to say, because as far as I know, and you're more of an expert on the secret space program than I am, but as far as I know, we haven't had a manned craft orbiting Saturn or Jupiter or Mars, for that matter. And so the answer to all of this is that it must be an alien ET spacecraft. That's the only answer. It can't be one of ours. And it's the writing that's on the side of the panel, right, on the left of the of one of the portals. There's some kind of hieroglyphs or some strange symbols that are there. Some say that it says insert here. If you spin each one of the symbols in a certain direction and flip it over backwards, it says insert here. I don't see that, but I haven't spun and inverted the images. But that's what this would have to be, right? This would have to be from an alien spacecraft, something not of this Earth, right? If it's from Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars.
Yeah, I mean, even looking back into like the alternative 3 information from the 70s, where we were talking about a book that came out and even a video series that came out talking about people that had left planet Earth to go to a breakaway civilization on Mars. And supposedly even before Kennedy made those famous words in his speech saying that we were going to go to the moon and do the other things, that we already had people in a very small breakaway civilization on Mars, according to this alternative 3 information. However, the technology used to get to Mars in that in that document still couldn't get out to Saturn and Jupiter. So now I'm really scratching my head here. If it's not alternative 3 technology from the 70s, which really originated from the early 60s, then what type of technology is this? The glyphs kind of remind me of the there was a disclosure of information from ex and former military officers that came out in 2010 and aired on CNN Live worldwide in the middle of the afternoon. And all these former military officers came on talking about these sightings of UFOs at military bases. There was one incident where there was a gentleman. It was called the Rendlesham Forest incident, where he touched one of the craft that landed, and he began to see all these digital zeros and ones in his mind, but which spelled out a whole phrase. But however, the craft that he saw had these same type of glyphs on it, which was kind of interesting.
The other part of this, though, Billy, is the okay. I don't want to sound like I'm poo-pooing anything, because I don't know. But when I look at the 28 images that are there, those are very, very, very compelling. And they span what looks like to me, they span decades. It's not like these were just one set of files from one set of, from Voyager or from Mariner or whatever. Those are very, very compelling. They don't match up with my eyes with what is in the third phase of Moon. Not to say that they're not from the same USB drive. Yeah. Right. But if it is a concerted effort with the Cicada group to put all of this out there, as a giant game. And I don't know if you're familiar with Cicada, but when Cicada first surfaced, and it was about 2 years ago, and there were a lot of people on it and trying to figure it out. I had done many shows on it. It was a lot of work from a group of individuals around the planet that were very, very smart putting this together. And we never really did find out what the bottom line was with Cicada or who was behind it. But now I see Cicada tied in with this, and it could be a giant game, right? Put together by very smart individuals, or this could be part of disclosure and bringing all of this forward from the Cicada group with stuff that has never been published before, because I haven't found any of it on the web anywhere. And that's the part, there's part of me that wants this to be solid. Then there's the other part that says, you know what? Very clever people putting this together. And then could there be the third part? It's done for a reason. It's done for disclosure. Right.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, you have to think so far with the such a small amount of information being out there, it makes you kind of wonder. There's no real profit in this. So, I mean, what is the end game if it's fake? It would be on every YouTube channel everywhere, and everybody would be monetizing it.
I brought that up. I brought that up with Rita right before the show. That's a lot of work to just do for no reason.
Right.
And one of the big reasons is money. Right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, why not?
If you're going to, because there certainly is a huge amount of clicks here that are being wasted for people out there that know how to take advantage of monetizing in social media.
Yeah, I agree. It's always comes down to these days, we're still in the matrix, and money is a big part of being in the matrix, unfortunately, even though it's fake, but we still have to utilize it to maneuver. And to go through all this effort, and probably from what I saw, that would have cost a lot of money to create, effort and time. So to do it for free, I don't know. It's very strange if it is.
Yeah, and like for you, right? You've got 1 million followers on Instagram, right? On Forbidden Knowledge, 1 million followers. If you had these videos, just imagine what you could do with them.
Right. I mean, I would have it up on everything, but again, this information, it was so restricted. It's really strange, man. I don't even know why it was pulled down the first time. Like, what was the purpose of it being pulled down? I heard the guys mention that they now are going to put commentary over it for fair use. So if it can't even stay up, then, who owns this stuff? And I mean, I don't know. I don't see any financial gain so far, any significant financial gain. So if it's just for fun and laughs, wow, somebody's got a strange sense of, comedy. I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah. And there was something else that happened. Again, I don't know if it's, well, anyway, the original set of the 28 images that we put up on Facebook, and I did it for a reason. Okay. I wanted them documented. I wanted them out there on social media. So they're there. They can't go anywhere now. So they're out there. But the original set of 28 images was put up on Imager, and they are down now. So how did that happen? I'm not so sure, but it adds to the intrigue. I was able to chase them down. I've got them, and once I saw that they were down on Imager and the other accounts out there for file sharing, they're all pulled down. Yeah. I thought, well, okay, let's get them back up there, but doesn't that add to the intrigue, right? Not only the removal of YouTube, but Imager and other file sharing platforms, the images were pulled down. Why would they do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. First of all, to be able to identify those specific images, and then to be able to go and pull them down, that's really, really bizarre. I mean, you're thinking, I'm looking at these images. I mean, for the average person who doesn't know really what they're looking at, they may be like, oh, these are just some old space images or some, very poor quality space images. But to people like us who are able to see these anomalies and so forth, and we know we have the backstory, then we can see something that's very intriguing and interesting there. So, there's a reason why they were pulled down, and it's got to be because somebody somewhere or some people somewhere didn't want this information getting out to the masses at that time, and maybe now it's the time. I can't see them pulling them down to say, oh, we don't want to expose our hoax, because so far the images that I've seen, and I've even looked at some of the magnifying glass, which takes away a lot of the pixelation, unless you see, if you're looking at Photoshopped or CGI, you can tell by the edges and so forth. So far, I haven't seen anything that looks edited or created. So it's been very interesting. It's a lot of intrigue on this, man, and it's going to probably, last for a long time. A lot of the more you look at it, the more question marks it raises.
Opening up the phone lines now, 747-228-2051, 747-228-2051. And let's get to a couple of basic things. You've got a lot of projects that you are working on, and one of them is the Deep Cycle battery. And the first prototype is now finished?
Yep, the first prototype is finished. This is one of the very first pieces of tech at First Class Space Agency. Anytime you go into any area of business and you're trying to make it profitable and make sure the funding is going where it's supposed to go, you want to get the low-lying fruit. And one of the first low-lying fruits that we were able to tap into was an order from Nigeria for a deep cycle battery, a specific order for specific specifications that they wanted in the battery, because they have a lot of brownouts there where the power goes down for sometimes an hour, sometimes 3 days. And a lot of people do have these 75 amp hour backup batteries to keep their refrigerator on and a fan blowing, just so they don't lose their food and they can stay cool. But the problem with those is once they run out and the power is still down, now you have to recharge it, and you can't recharge it unless you plug it in, but there's no power. And it's a big conundrum. So we developed over at First Class Space a 400 amp hour deep cycle battery within the same size as the current 75 amp hour deep cycle batteries that they have. It's able to take a trickle charge from solar. It's got a trickle charge manager on it, and it's also got a power inverter, and it has the capability of keeping your house up and running with several appliances for at least a week. So it trickle charges all the way through, so it kind of even be extended almost indefinitely, and it can kick in instantaneously in any type of a brownout and keep your refrigerator on, your air conditioner or small air conditioner powered, and other important appliances like a microwave oven or whatever you need to use to keep those things functioning properly. So the two dignitaries are on their way here next week to meet me in Fort Lauderdale, along with one inspector to check out the work. And if everything checks out, they're going to take 1 million of these deep cycle batteries.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
And there's an inverter built in, so you can actually plug straight into it.
Correct. Yeah, you can plug straight into it, and you can put various different types of inverters depending on the needs. Any 800 watts to 3,000, it can still it'll power it. It'll take that. So you can use power drills on this, and anything. So it's pretty strong. And I found that it's very heavy. I mean, the one that they're using now probably weighs about 75 pounds. Mine weighs about almost 200 pounds in the same exact size.
And if it, I've got calls on hold and I want to get to those, but really quick, easy answer. How long, if it's fully charged, how long, well, it depends on how many things are plugged into it, of course.
Yeah, it depends on what's plugged into it. Yeah, it depends on how heavy the usage is. But with the trickle charge solar panel, you can at least keep it charging. And if you really monitor your usage on the appliances that are plugged in, you can keep it going almost indefinitely.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Let's go to the phones. You ready?
Yep.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? Say hi to Billy Carson.
Hey, Billy. Alex McGinnis here.
All right.
From Cincinnati. How you doing?
Oh, fantastic. Cincinnati. I'm very familiar with the area.
Awesome. Yeah, very familiar with your work as well. Pleasure to talk to you. And I had a couple questions when it comes to, I know you're studying free energy, non-point source energy, as well as counter-gravity and those types of technologies. And I guess my first question is, having been such suppressed types of technologies over time, how are you able to sort of publicly study this type of technology? And I guess as a follow-up, how could others like myself possibly get involved in this arena as well, and the rollout and development of this type of technology?
That is a fantastic question, and I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people are scratching their heads at the same thing. The biggest secret to this whole thing is to not make it secret. Don't get patents. Don't spend tens of thousands of dollars on patents. We're doing everything open source. And as a matter of fact, in terms of getting other people involved, I'm getting ready to start an open source group. And this open source group will have people like yourself and others that'll be interested, and I'll definitely make an announcement. And I'm sure Jimmy will be able to make an announcement about it as well. And we're going to get everybody in this open source group, and we're all going to bounce ideas and suggestions and engineering and concepts back and forth off of each other, and schematics and drawings and R&D and everything, and make everything open source. Because once the information is out there, it's like the internet, it's out there. See, these images were taken down off all these different pages, these coelacanth images, but Jimmy Church has them. So, it's like conscious thought. And once you get your conscious thought through the writing of a book, for example, and people read that book, now your consciousness has literally been transferred into other people's minds. And that's how we're going to keep it going. And that's how we're going to take away any risk of threat of anything. Is once you put a patent on something, then they can use eminent domain and take it over and cancel out the patent and say we own the rights to it now and all this other kind of crazy stuff. So everything's open source.
And the second part from Alex was, how can he study? Where can he go for resource material on this?
Oh, well, in the open source, in the group that we're going to create for people to join, and actually for free, and kind of communicate back and forth, there'll be a lot of great ideas and links and sources of information, different experiments that have happened and over time and everything else, so that we can all kind of share the wealth of information back and forth. So in that group is where we're going to have all the links, and everybody will be sharing their own sources that they've discovered and found, and concepts and ideas. So we're all going to join together in this group that I'm going to create, and it'll be a public group.
Alex, thank you for the phone call, man, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And, and you bring up one of the best points that we can bring up. It seems that anytime that there was something clever, right? Mm-hmm. Something clever, something that was outside of the box, something that was going against the grain, and, going against the system and their profit margins, there's a patent, and then bye-bye.
Yeah,
and the government is able to, in interest of national security, they can do whatever they want to clamp something down, and maybe even get ownership of it. But this happens over and over again, and the way to avoid all of that is just to go public, right? Be completely visible.
Be completely as possibly as visible as you can, and put the information out in an open source type of a way. Some things you have to keep quiet for your company so that you can actually make a deal like the deep cycle battery. I'm not going to give out the exact instructions on that right this moment, but things like that aren't that earth shattering. But some of the other stuff, you just have to make it kind of open source, and you have to put the information out there, and whoever can develop it and build it and sell it to somebody else to make a profit, fantastic. Whoever can develop it and build it for themselves and use it for themselves, fantastic. And that is the only way to defeat this oligarchy.
I've got 45 seconds, but I have to ask you this. You and I are both car guys, right? Mm-hmm. We love our cars, and we love our watches, right? It's just Billy and Jimmy. But Ford announced yesterday the Mustang Mach-E, all-electric SUV / Mustang four-wheel drive. Would you give up, look, you're developing a deep cycle battery. Would you give up would you give up everything to drive electric cars and give away the pleasure of a V8?
I would only do it if the electric car was self-sustaining electric. Right now, people don't realize driving an electric car, you're still using gas because you have to charge it up via electricity plugging in, which goes to a power plant which uses oil. So when they come out with a car that's got the solar metallic paint built into the paint,
right,
and they're using the braking energy for recharging the batteries, now you've got a fully sustainable vehicle that's electric, that's not utilizing fossil fuels. I'm all for that.
Yeah. The carbon footprint of an electric car, it kind of negates everything. But yeah,
right.
Why can't there be a completely solar finished electric vehicle, right? You drive it, and as you are driving it, it's charging, and you've got unlimited range, not a 300-mile range where you're chasing fast charge stations across the country, right?
Exactly.
It needs to be the opposite. All right, let's take our break right here. We'll come back. Tonight is night one of our Open Lines Week here on Fade to Black. Tonight it's Billy Carson. The call-in number is 747-228-2051. And I would like to say hello to everybody over at UPN. That's right, UPN. Thank you, Tony Sweet. Tonight was supposed to be a test of our network. We're live over at UPN. Right on. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight is night one of our Open Lines Week here on Fade to Black. Our guest is Billy Carson. The call-in number is 747-228-2051. 747-228-2051. And Billy, before we get back to the phones, I wanted to ask you about some of the technology right now that seems to be surfacing. One is the metamaterials and TTSA and the Army investigating that, and the possibility of not only ET visiting this planet throughout ancient history, but these technologies that have been around for a very long time. And is it possible that the combination of what is happening right now in Egypt, we've got new tunnels that have been discovered, and you've been talking about what's going on at the Giza complex, and that quite possibly governments and institutions of power have known this for a very long time, and these technologies may have been around and suppressed for millennia, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look into the Sumerian tablets and some of these ancient stories from the Mahabharata, the Indian Vedas, the Atrahasis epic, the Enuma Elish, as you start to look into a lot of these ancient texts and scriptures, even the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, you start to realize that they're talking about these same types of advanced technologies being used in ancient times. You have to look at it through a different type of a lens. You have to understand, first of all, the wording that's being used in ancient times. It's not going to say metamaterials. It's not going to say UFO, obviously. So you have to look at the wording, and then you have to be able to discern when it's referencing some type of technology. And then you have to be able to break out those sentences or those verses, and you have to be able to analyze them and then compare them to technologies to get your answer. So it's a very tedious process to make sure that you're pretty much spot on. Then I also like to bounce that information off other people that I trust in the community to make sure that I'm not just, having a crazy thought. But there's a lot of mention of these types of technologies, even when you're going back to things like the magic carpet, which I'm doing a blog on right now. The magic carpet was a flying device that was used in ancient times. And, it's just something that we see like on Aladdin. There's this carpet that the king sits on and it flies them all around. to me, now after really analyzing a lot of the statements from ancient texts, it looks like that was real technology. So the more I dig in, the more what we think is myth and mythical and just for fantasy and entertainment is more realistic than what we are living right now. So it's really a weird situation. It's like we're just now trying to rediscover everything that already existed.
When I was a kid and I used to watch all of those cartoons and think about what was actually going on, I bought into it, but I looked at it from a different way in that I thought it was part of history. I didn't discount it as fantasy or science fiction writing or mythology or folklore. Right. I didn't look at it that way. The genie in the bottle, the flying carpets, these were things that I could easily accept and wrap my head around. And you can do that when you're a kid, as opposed to when you're an adult and you tend to block that stuff out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what happens is, when a tree is a young sapling, the limbs can bend easily. But once that tree gets much older and deeper rooted, then you try to bend the limb, it will snap. So they develop us and they program us as we get older to relinquish a lot of those, what you want to call childhood ideals, and to grasp more adult, mature ideals. And those mature ideals put us into this box matrix system, which forces us to forget all of those fanciful, I got these braces on, fanciful things, so these braces are killing me, and only focus on go to work, pay the bills, go to sleep, wake up and do it all over again, and then die. So, we've got to maintain our grasp on what we had when we were kids and look into that, and then look into that, and with that same mindset, look into these ancient texts and look into these new discoveries and begin to realize that our ancient past was far more amazing and colorful than we can ever even imagine.
Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. It's Deb from Sacramento.
Hi, Deb. How are you? Say hi to Billy.
Hi, Billy. How are you?
All right. Fantastic.
Thank you for being on the show tonight. You're the perfect person, I think, for me to ask this question because of all your experience and knowledge. And it's a big question that I'm going to try to make very simple and try to condense it. I want to know your opinion about people who think that there's really a big alien deception going on in the means of the elite invoking evil entities through portholes to make, that they come through. They're not aliens. They're evil entities that come through and make these deals with our government and provide us with technology and say, go ahead and take people, abduct them, do whatever you need. And that the space brothers that are supposedly out there aren't there, that these are really evil entities. Any thoughts on that? Because it's really disturbing to think about, and that it's part of this end of times type scenario. And I heard this on a podcast, on a Christian podcast, and I didn't realize it was a very conservative Christian podcast when I was listening to it, so I can see where their motivation is. So.
Okay, great question. Thanks for calling in. So basically, the story goes is that the gray aliens from the Zeta Reticuli star system supposedly had a meeting with Eisenhower back in the day, and another group came from another planetary system, or another system actually in our own solar system, which was the Venus system, and came and offered health and wealth, and the other one offered technology. That was the Greys. So the Greys were supposedly the evil ones, and these Vesuvians were supposedly the nice ones that were offering to help us, remodel this planet to a green planet and eradicate disease. But they weren't offering any technology. This is according to some information from the stranger at the Pentagon. And the guy's name was Valiant Thor, the captain of this particular mission. And then with the Greys, it was no particular name given, but that they had met with Eisenhower and offered technology in exchange for being able to abduct a very small amount of people for scientific experimentation, which supposedly was agreed on. But obviously the deal didn't go as exactly as planned, as we were supposedly given very small amounts of inadequate technology, just enough to sustain the agreement, and many more people were abducted than whatever thought would be possible, according to the theory, based off of old documents and research and testimony from whistleblowers and so forth. So it wasn't they came from multiple portals or multiple dimensions. It was that they were coming from this Zeta Reticuli star system. And that's pretty much the predominant story. Now, these gray aliens, I really do believe that they exist. I think that they are cybernetic organisms that have probably long outlived their creators. And I think that the main reason for the program that they're doing of all these abductions is probably for genetic experiments to do a hybridization program where they are trying to combine themselves with the human DNA for the purpose of obtaining an afterlife, is from what my understanding is, according to John Lear. So basically, it seems like they may be trying to merge with real biology so that they can obtain an afterlife through a spirit, which is what it seems. So now, are they experimenting on opening portals? Very possible. I think CERN could be a portal generator behind all the other science that it really does do. It does real science, but it could be also a portal generator there at CERN. And they could be trying to find ways to open portals and doorways and gateways into other dimensions, because we've got a lot of mad scientists on this planet. I mean, that's just a fact. But I think they're two totally separate stories, but there's always an agenda for an end time type of a talk. And, it's the end of times, the end of days, beg for forgiveness now. And also there is a big theory out there that the government is trying to plan some type of a fake alien invasion. Now, I don't put anything past the government, just because they've done so many things to the people of this, just the United States alone. We're experimenting on nuclear dust on people in impoverished areas, giving their own soldiers different types of drugs and experimenting on their own soldiers. Chem spraying over military fields, LSD, to see how the soldiers would react. I mean, crazy stuff. So I don't put anything past them in terms of them having anything to do with a fake alien invasion, because that would definitely allow us to want to relinquish whatever little bit of rights we have left and give everything over to them. But it's a combination probably now of three different things, all in that one question, that are possibly happening: portal generation and scientific experiments, these gray aliens, which I really do believe exist and are abducting people for a hybridization program. And there could be hybrids walking amongst us right now, and we wouldn't even know it. And then also, obviously, the government with the false flags, and with the way that they operate to strike fear in the hearts of its citizens, so that we can relinquish whatever rights that we have. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Billy. I know that was a big question, but that's a lot of great detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, I'll be enjoying the rest of the show.
Right on. Thank you,
Deb. Guys.
And, Billy, with what you do with all of your companies, how do you deal with the investors or the corporate side of it when the questions arise about not only aliens and ET and contact, but your interest in this and the books that you write and the things that you present out there? Is this ever an issue?
No, it hasn't really been an issue. We just present things in a very professional manner. We have pitch decks, we have investment proposals, we have executive summaries. And in those documents, we're not talking about aliens and UFOs and anomalies or, esoteric knowledge, or we're just talking straight business, bottom line. Here's what can be produced. This is the effect it can have on the market. This is what it can sell for. This is what anticipated sales are. These are projections over the next 5 years. And these are the percentages that are available to chop up. Do you want in or an out? So we keep it very professional. On First Class Space's website, I'm not talking about any anomalies or aliens or, anything. Gary McKinnon is not going to come up on my First Class Space YouTube feed.
Well, and what do you do when you got a venture capital group, and it's all looking good, right? And they're ready to sign off, and the head of the venture capital group goes, the other day I heard you were on Fade to Black, and we need to sit down and talk because I'm not so sure. Are you prepared for that kind of conversation?
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. So far, it's always been the opposite. It's been like the whisper talk, but it's like, I believe that kind of stuff, and I
Right.
I was just talking with my friend about it. I was just talking with my coworker about, and then they started asking me the usual thing. I started getting all the questions. I get hundreds and hundreds of questions, so it's pretty interesting. The amount of people that are secretly interested in this stuff, but just don't openly talk about it. And then as soon as they find out somebody that they're dealing with has access to the information, or at least some kind of answer, they become very intrigued by it. So it hasn't blown anything up for me yet.
Let's go back to the phones. That's good to know. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
It's the Midnight Man in Staten Island. Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Joe. How are you?
All right. Hey, listen, you call. You got to be right after your call. I can't believe it. I just called up. How you?
Say,
all right, listen.
Yeah, say hi to Billy. Really quick before we get to the break. What's your question for Billy tonight, Joe?
Billy, it's good to talk to you. I love your Emerald Tablet stuff. Listen,
Thanks.
I have a very quick and precise question, okay? I'll make it very clear. Well, I'll let you speak more, though. But I'll say, in the East, they say life is an illusion, and so on and so forth, considering the Matrix idea and so on. Has this planet been under a mass illusion that has been manipulated and created to control us for the last 6,000 years or so by whatever entities, whether they be reptilian, etc.? And if so, is there a way that it may be broken, that we can be free from this illusion? And that's basically my question.
Yeah, great question, Joe. Obviously, there's a lot of chatter right now, Billy, about this. Not only throughout our community, but all the way up to the highest levels of tech and Silicon Valley and Elon Musk, that we very possibly could be living in an illusion, that this is a holographic representation of what is real.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's a great question. I really do believe that we're living in a matrix, but not just one matrix, several levels of matrices. So basically we have the matrix where our reality itself in the third dimension is a light matrix. And where we get that is basically when you look at the basic fundamental constituents of matter, you realize that matter is all based from electromagnetic waves. And all an electromagnetic wave is a wave of light. It's a frequency of light that we can't see with the human eye, but they exist. We only can see 1% of the frequencies out here, so we're very limited in what we can see. But we know that waves are all waves of light. So if everything is made of light, including your body, because everything is made of atoms, so all atoms are made of waves, and all waves are light. This entire third dimension is nothing but an emanating light matrix. It's a fractal holographic light matrix. And in a hologram, if you take the smallest part of a hologram out and analyze it, you'll see the entire picture in that small piece. The only thing you lose is some of the resolution. So what we're looking at here is that we're living in a fractal holographic universe, because this is where you get our as above, so below. You can look at the universe zoomed out and see what brain neurons look like. Look inside of a brain, looks the same. You can look at tree branches, and you can look at the lungs, so forth and so on. I can keep going, but everything is fractal holographic. We're living in a matrix full of nothing but light waves and lights and frequency that is condensed and slowed down to a vibration that gives us the illusion of matter and solidity. That's one part of the matrix. The other part of the matrix is the system that we're living under, that had been put on us from time immemorial, that has us living in this type of a prison type of a planet system, and a prison mindset that has us locked into thinking that we're capped off of how intelligent we can get, how advanced we can get, and it has us like on this very drip by drip time scale, and it has us locked into religion and financial systems that are all as well fake, and to keep us down, keep our lifespan short through foods, That's all part of this other matrix that has been put on top of us by these beings. Who exactly are they? These are these Anunnaki beings, in my personal opinion, that came here 450,000 years ago. And I think they put this system in place about 200,000 years ago. And we've been under it ever since. And the only way to break it is the final part of the question, is to elevate our consciousness to a high level, which we have the capability of doing, to where we can see through the veil, see beyond the veil, see through the matrix, break the matrix code by editing it, reprogramming our own DNA, because our DNA has been storing these memories and all this information in it and locking us into this system epigenetically for the last, how many ever generations, thousands of them generations, in my opinion. But we can change this whole thing by positive affirmations, meditation, eating clean, research and investigation, raising our level of consciousness, and also exhibiting unconditional love for everybody on this planet. That will then reprogram our DNA. Now our future generations epigenetically will be changed on the DNA level. And now we have people that are growing up, raised up, high level of consciousness, seeing things differently, understanding things differently, and being able to break through this matrix system and redeveloping a brand new system on this planet and in our solar system that will allow mankind to excel to higher levels that they've ever been to before.
And if the reprogramming of that DNA, and thank you for the phone call, Joe, if the reprogramming of the DNA happens within us right now, the next generation, our children, are carrying that changed DNA, right? I mean, this doesn't happen in 50 years. It could happen tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's what people keep trying to say, that we're going to hit this 5D and we're just going to transform into light beings. I don't think it's going to exactly happen that way, in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, but I really believe that it's going to be by us changing our reprogramming our DNA ourselves, which is now scientifically proven. It's not even like we're talking about, crazy stuff here and conspiracy stuff. This is real peer-reviewed science that it can be done by positive affirmations and even just talking to yourself. And thinking positive thoughts can reprogram your DNA. So imagine when you're doing research, investigation, and everything else, your next generation is going to have that reprogrammed DNA. And if they stay on that path and they stay on that path down generation after generation, we can clean out the genetic pool from a lot of the programs that have been put in place to keep us locked down. And we can break free of that, and we can really excel as a species.
Yeah, and we've got to head towards a break here, but a perfect example of that was I think there were finches over in England that learned how to open up the tops of milk bottles that were left on the front steps of, that were delivered in the morning.
Wow.
and steal the milk, right? But they didn't teach, each other. This was in the eggs, like the next generation of birds in the next city and town, right? The DNA was changed. They were born with the ability and the knowledge of how to go and steal the milk.
That's
right?
incredible.
Yeah. And that is absolutely changed and programmed DNA. You can't have a better example of that. Or over in Japan, right? The monkeys that learn how to get the sand off of the sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you go and you look at that, and it makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Let's take a break right here. I want to thank you for the phone call, Joe. Great question. And also, before I head to the break, the number is 747-228-2051. Tonight is night one of 4 straight nights of open lines here on Fade to Black. And I do want to thank Billy Carson for coming in. Let's take our break. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. And like I said earlier at the last break, hello to the audience of UPN. Yeah. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. We'll be back more with Billy and your phone calls right after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. Welcome back, Fade to Black. Tonight, Billy Carson, night one of our Open Lines week here on Fade to Black. The call-in number is 747-228-2051. 747-228-2051. And, Billy, I wanted to ask you, when we talk about the ease of conversation these days when it comes to UFOs and aliens and ET contact and life out there in the universe, I realize that the conversations can be started easier than it has been in the past. But why the change in outlook? You know, not only with the community and with the status quo that has just been on cruise control, but the media and governments around the world. It's easier today. Why the change?
You know, I think it has a lot to do with our community that over the last 10 years, this last decade has been powerful with the capability for us to release an enormous amount of disclosure to the general population. And that information has really propagated through the world because everybody knows somebody that we don't know. So somebody that hears our information, sees it, reads it, finds it online or wherever they find it in a book or whatever, and then shares it with somebody else, and it just keeps going and going and going. So you amplify that over a decade, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this disclosure movement has really been very powerful, and it's really opened up a lot of minds, and it's really got people asking questions, which is the most important thing, is to ask questions. Stop taking everything for what it was given to you and just going, oh, this is the way it's got to be. People are starting to not doubt it, but ask questions that may, give you a different point of view, a different perspective. And they're looking for answers to those questions. So now when I'm at restaurants, I can hear people, 2 tables away talking about aliens or talking about UFOs or conspiracies or false flags or whatever. I just hear these people talking about various different topics that you would never, ever in a million years hear them talking about in the past. Not out openly in public like that. But the conversations are just now, pretty much everywhere. People are open to talking about it and not as embarrassed as they used to be, and to want, to have to conceal it and keep it quiet and so forth. So it's really amazing. It's really, to us, the community itself, the conscious community has really helped spread this information and knowledge around the world to make people more comfortable with the information. I think it's really, hats off to ourselves, really.
Well, and the big question, and there's so many big questions, but I think the one that is in front of everybody right now is, what is it that the government truly knows? What are they in possession of? And what contact have they made? So I'm going to throw that question to you. What is it that the government truly knows?
Yeah, I believe that they truly know that there is an enormous amount of ancient history that's out there in our solar system and in the galaxy itself, in our Milky Way galaxy, that points to the fact that there are an enormous amount of aliens, if you want to call them that, aliens because they're not from here, out there. Beings, so to speak, sentient, conscious beings. Some have interacted with our planet in the ancient times, and some are interacting with us, in my opinion, currently today, only dealing with the high-level elites, high-level military, industrial complex people. And I think that they are trying to find a way to slowly give us a form of disclosure that will not allow them to relinquish all of the information that they have on these beings, these entities, but so that they can continue to work with them in the dark. But they would slowly give us a little bit at a time, warming us up for the next how many ever decades, to the point where we see them dealing with them directly. But by then, a lot of the agendas have been met. So, for example, I believe that within the next 5 years, they're going to announce life on Mars, and it's going to be called alien life. And what they're going to announce is bacteria, obviously not from Earth, so it's alien life. So they're going to give us bacteria. Maybe a decade or so later, they'll tell us that there was the ancient remnants of an ancient civilization. And maybe a decade or so after that, we may find out that there's still remnants of life in small pockets on the planet itself of Mars. So, just that's to give you an example. But they really do know about this. And I think the reason why they would keep it secret is because of power. Knowledge is power. Having the capability of getting access to information that could give them potentially some of the most incredible weapons ever developed. or the technologies ever developed, and keeping that hidden from the general population to kind of like an ace in the hole is the main agenda or reason behind it. Because once you get information and share it with everybody, everybody wants access to it. Everybody wants to know all about it. Everybody wants to know how this stuff works and how can we utilize it in our own communities and cities. And, we don't want this weapon. What if we don't want that? So it just turns everybody into another question mark and another situation, versus where if you keep everything in the dark, you can control and manipulate the directive that you've got with the people. But behind the scenes, you've got something that you can really utilize as a special tool, a special weapon, and you can even maybe travel the stars without telling anybody and find out, more discoveries, and then slowly drip those back to the general population as well. So I think it's just the agenda of secrecy and power.
Does our president, right now it's President Trump, but it could be, any president, are they read in? Right? Do they know? Because with the questions that were laid out for President Trump by Tucker Carlson, I didn't want to expect too much from that, but he certainly implied that UFOs are not here. But he believes that these pilots are great pilots and they're seeing something, but not UFOs. Now, what does that say to you? Does that say to you that the president doesn't know? They haven't spoken to him about it? Or the opposite, that he does know and he's not going to tell us? I mean, what does that say?
I think that they all know. Every single president knows, from Kennedy up. Even from before Kennedy, I think it was a little bit known. There's like in the Eisenhower era, but Kennedy was also one that was known to have come across information about aliens and UFOs that he wanted to bring to the general population, which I believe is one of the reasons why he was taken out. So it could be that these future presidents, from after him, were, hey, reminded. I really do think they use Kennedy as an example. I think that behind the scenes swearing, the real swearing, they show a video of Kennedy and they go, you just follow what we say to do. Because I really do believe that all presidents are puppets. Just my personal opinion. They're allowed to enrich themselves. They're allowed to make money. They're allowed to have a certain amount of power over certain industries so that they can get rich and extremely wealthy and get their book deals and everything else. But overall, there's somebody above them that's pulling the mainstrings, and they have to fall in place. And I believe that they all do know that they're there to the full extent of everything that's going on. They may be shielded a little bit from that, so they have plausible deniability, but I do believe that they're very well aware that there are UFOs and aliens that exist, and that there are sections of the government above top secret that are working along with these beings.
I have just reset the software. I know everybody that was calling in, you were getting put on hold and shut down. So I've restarted the software. It's taken me a few minutes. And we should be okay there now. I don't know yet. But 747-228-2051, we're back live with the phones. But staying on this line of questions when it comes to what's happening today, there's a second avenue that is playing out here that there's a religious aspect to what we are seeing in the skies and ET in general, that is playing out at the Pentagon, that is playing out in government, where they realize that there's a religious side to this. And I'm not so sure what that actually means, right? I don't. Is it that throughout history that UFOs and ET have been tied to religion and it has evolved in that to today, or is there something more sinister involved here, and they know this, and we can't play a direct contact card with the population because there's something else in play that involves religion? I know you've heard the same things. What is it that we should be concerned with?
Well, the religious system that was put in place here was put in place by these advanced beings in ancient times. they masqueraded as gods. Not all of them, but some of them did. Thoth is one of the ones that did not masquerade as a god. And people came to grovel at his feet, he would stand them up and say, I'm just the son of Atlantis. Matter of fact, at times he was known to call himself the Son of Man, which obviously made its way into Jesus' words in the New Testament. But I talk about this in my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, the fact that religion is such a powerful system to put on people because it keeps control over them in a way that allows the powers that be, the elites, to literally manipulate them into whatever they want them to do. And it's also become a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So, you're talking about the religious system just in America alone makes more money or generates more money than all the companies in Silicon Valley combined in 1 year. That's a lot of revenue. Now multiply that by the world. So it's definitely an agenda there when you add the religious aspect to it. Adding religion to aliens or UFOs, to me, the agenda makes sense if you want people to keep paying the money. It's like adding another layer to religion. Oh, by the way, religion is real and these beings are part of the religion too, type thing. And now you still got the people, sucked into the system versus saying religion doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is spirituality, and these beings have nothing to do with religion. These ancient guys were not gods. They were just people like us. They're never going to say that. They want that religious aspect to still be there. And what's very interesting is when I pull down one of the anomalies from the planet Venus through the USGS.gov radar imagery that was taken, I found an anomaly there that resembles a city. And the thing about this city is, unlike the ones we've discovered on Mars, there's a lot of broken down, dilapidated structures, broken pieces everywhere, completely demolished. But on Venus, this city was intact. Which to me was very interesting. But the reason why I bring it up is because one of the buildings there, and this image, I'll send you a copy of this image. It was actually on TV, this image that I found. There's a building there that has a cross on top. Did they propagate this religious theme across the entire solar system? How many people did they fool with this religious system to allow themselves to take the people over? To me, this cargo cult's probably a stream of them all the way across the galaxy, where more advanced beings meet up with less advanced people and manipulate them and take them over by masquerading as gods. I think it's probably just a standard theme throughout the entire galaxy.
Send me this image.
Yeah, I am. I'll send it to you right now.
Yeah, I want to see this image. And when you say cross, is it a cross like a Christian cross, or is it a cross like the Red Cross, like
a cross like the Christian cross at the top of a building?
And this was on Venus.
On Venus, yeah, I did. I provide all the source links and everything because I don't want to be the only one to have looked at it. I've given out all the source material, all the documentation on it. It was featured on George Norrie's show on Beyond Belief on Gaia, where the image was presented there on the TV show. So one of those shows that I'm on out of the four. It was probably the second episode I was on with George, or the first episode with George Norrie on Beyond Belief. You'll see it there as well on the show.
No, I want to see it now.
I'm getting it right up for you, man, right away.
I missed that episode of Beyond Belief. I would have talked about this already. Was this? I know I'm about to take a look at this image. Was this city on the surface of Venus, or was it up in the clouds where the temperature is different?
No, it's on the surface, which makes me start questioning the whole thing about the temperature, because all of a sudden you start to realize, okay, let me research Venus now that I saw this. Wait a minute, why is there 14 missions to Venus by Russia, the Venera missions? Why was Russia able to land probes on Venus that transmitted video and sound from the surface and landed by parachute? What kind of material is this parachute made out of if it can survive all these crazy molten iron, lead rain, and and all these temperatures and everything else?
Right.
Come on, it's a bunch of garbage. I think that they're making it up. This Venera mission landed and sent back imagery and photos from the surface of Venus over several days. Okay. and they sent 14 missions there. So they're getting to the surface, or they had been to the surface of Venus. Now, one of the more recent data coming back from the Venus missions is showing that there's actually organic material on Venus. Now, how do they know that? Organic material on the surface of Venus. I really do believe that Venus is a habitable planet. And after seeing these cities, what are they doing there? They should be completely destroyed. They should be burnt. They shouldn't even exist, but they're there. I just found one of the images. Let me get it ready for you here.
Yeah, while you're sending that in, let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, hi, Jimmy. It's Stacy with an eye from Colorado. Hi, Billy.
Hello. Hey, what's up? How are you doing?
I'm good. I just want to remind you who I am, for one, because I thought I was having dinner with my friend Jason Quitt and my husband in Boulder, but you were in town filming for Beyond Belief, and we're having dinner with Sid Goldberg. So I walk into the restaurant. I'm used to bumping into Sid. I was planning to see Jason, but you sitting there at the table threw my mind for the biggest loop. Like, I was so thrown off. I was not expecting Billy Carson to be sitting in the tea house in Boulder, but that was such a fun evening.
Yeah, it was. It was good to talk to you again. That was great. We had a great time, great dinner, great conversation too. That
was a lot of fun. And actually, I wanted to ask you something then, and I couldn't, because it really is on behalf of all the Sadernauts. It's not just me.
Okay.
And we are putting together a cookbook of recipes, because when people love each other, we eat together and we feed each other. And I wanted to see if you have a recipe you will contribute to our Fade to Black cookbook.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely have a recipe for that. No doubt. Absolutely. That's great.
Okay. Wait.
What pops in your mind first?
Well, hold on for a second here. Don't derail this show. Come in here and take over. Talking about food, trying to pull at my heartstrings. Billy, can you cook?
I can cook, man. I can really throw down. Yeah.
Really?
Ooh.
Now,
I really can.
But you run a clean lifestyle. All of the recipes for the Fade to Black cookbook have to involve beef.
That is not true. That is not true at all. You ignore him. I'm making up the rules. The Sadernauts are making up the rules.
Yeah. Okay.
We will make a category for any recipe you give us.
Yeah, I'll have something phenomenal for you. I do a phenomenal vegan baked ziti. Yeah, it will blow your mind. You won't even know that it's not real meat in there. I got so many dishes. I mean, I own plant-based alternatives on Instagram and Facebook, which is almost at 1 million followers just in itself. And on there are nothing but hundreds and hundreds of recipes of food to show people that we don't just eat lettuce and grass. We actually have real meals, hearty meals.
Okay.
I didn't know food was a big interest for you. I knew you ate well, but I just didn't know.
Man,
that's cool.
He's a basketball coach, man.
I know.
Okay, but Billy, I'm going to ask you this: why is it that a vegan, right, will always say it tastes like meat? You'll never know that it's not meat. Why put the emphasis on that? I mean,
because, you're trying to get people to understand that there's something about meat that people obviously they like the texture, because they're so used to it. So you want them to feel like it's not just you eating a bunch of grass or you had a cow or something, but that there's actually some substance and some hardiness to the meal that's going to give you that same quote unquote satisfaction, even of the feeling of being full and everything.
Right.
So it's a way to help people kind of correlate what the food is going to be like when they try to eat it. So you can, and I'm not one of those hardcore vegan guys, like nobody can come around me eating. I don't care what anybody eats, to be honest with you, around me or whatever. If somebody's around me that doesn't eat, that's not a vegan, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. They can eat whatever they want. I just eat what I eat. And I really, to be honest with you, I began eating like this because I was afraid to swallow the meat when I was, a kid.
Right.
I was afraid. I just knew that there were blood vessels and things in there. To me, it kind of grossed me out, so I didn't want to swallow it. I would just chew it and spit it out. And then my dad got mad, and my mom would just give me side dishes.
Right.
And, it's not like I'm trying to beat the whole world down to be a vegan. It's just what I like.
What I don't understand, and I haven't quite figured this out, because I've gone through periods of my life of attempting a vegan diet, or a vegetarian diet, I should say.
Yeah.
And Rita and I will go out and we'll have a vegan day, right? We'll be with our vegan friends, and we'll have a vegan lunch and a vegan dinner. Let me tell you something. On the way home, we're starving, and I will pull into the first frigging hot dog stand that we see. And I can't figure that part of it out, and I can't institute the change. And then, and I go back, and I'm not doing this for laughs. I'm just telling you how it is, right? Oh man, Benihana's has got to be open right now. Come on, let's go. And so, years ago, I was 21, 22 years old, and I did a full solid year of no red meat. Okay. I did chicken and fish, and that was like every other day. I fully committed. After a year, my band signed a deal, right? And the manager took us out to a Japanese steakhouse in Pasadena. And I'm kind of freaking out about it, right? I thought, oh man, if I eat a steak, I'll die. You know, I've been so good for a year. I don't know how my system. And I get there and I'm smelling. And I'm going to tell you right now, I had a filet mignon. Okay? Wow. Grilled. And I ate the whole thing. And I thought I was probably going to be in a hospital. I woke up the next day and I felt great. Right? And I just thought to myself, is this all, is this all made up? Is it just made up? Because
I think it's different body types, Jimmy. Yeah. I'm curious about the blood type diet. What do you think about that, Billy? Have you looked at that at all?
The blood type diet?
Yeah, looking at different blood types and how you need to eat for that. Because I think some people need meat, and some people, do far better.
I can agree with that. I think some people need certain enzymes that are in different types of foods that others don't maybe not need. I'm one of the very rare people on the planet that only 15% of the world has my blood type, and I have to donate my blood to the local blood bank so I can have a store of my own blood in case something happens to me. So I go and give a pint every now and then because I have, Rh negative blood. So it could be, I could see that happening. Certain blood types would need, certain enzymes and stuff that other people, everybody's genetics are slightly different, and everybody responds to food a different way. Some people can get on a vegan diet and feel like they're dying, and some people can thrive off of it and become bodybuilders in the U.S. Olympics, So it just depends on the body type, and also the science behind what they're eating and the meal prep and everything else. Some people think it's just I'm gonna be a vegan, I'm just only gonna eat, salads all day, and you can't do that.
Right. I balance things out. We do, and Stacy, thank you for the phone call. We do try to, we're juicing, fruits and vegetables, and we buy all organic, and there are probably every other night of the week, I'm just like, tonight, a salad with chicken, right? But we do, and I know that I'm much more healthier than I've ever been in my life, and I feel great. But I think everything that you introduce to your body needs to be the right version of that, whatever it is. It needs to be the right healthy version of that. It needs to be the correct meat. It needs to be the correct fish. It needs to be the correct vegetables. No GMO anything. Organic, absolutely. The purest organic, farm to table if you can pull it off, So, I'm not poo-pooing it. I just find it very funny how vegans always, well, you know what, check this out. And you know what? It tastes like meat.
Well, a lot of meat eaters say tastes like chicken,
Yeah, they do. Stacy, thank you so much for the phone call, and enjoy the rest of your week.
You too. Good night. Good night, Billy. Good to talk
Good
to you.
night. All right.
So I'm interested in the baked ziti. Okay, I'm going to let everybody know that Billy has sent me this image. I'm in a holy crap moment in looking at this image of Venus. Okay, we're going to come back after the break. Do I have your permission? Can I post this on Twitter?
Oh, yeah. Post it everywhere. Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you the corresponding image. It kind of looks like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, in terms of like the look from space, what it might look like.
This is pretty nuts. And you give the official USGS.gov global mapping where this is taken from. Yeah. So this isn't something that was manipulated or anything like that. So we're going to talk about this after the break. I'm going to get it posted up in Twitter. In the meantime, the lines are open, 747-228-2051. This is night number one of our open lines week here on Fade to Black. And I've got to hit this button right here. I just did. Billy Carson, more with Billy right after this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back, Fade to Black. 4 straight days of open lines here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Billy Carson, 747-228-2051. And I've got to say that, Billy, I didn't expect this tonight, looking at these Venus images. I have never seen these before or expected to see what I am looking at here. Mm-hmm. I just posted this up on Twitter. I want now he sent me a bunch, but this first image is enough to stir the pot. It's pretty bleeping nutty. Okay, before I would say, it's pixelization and that's what we're looking at here. But we have the elements of curves, of avenues, next to the cross, that C-shaped cul-de-sac. That is, and there's a few of those here. It's not the only one, and it's not a consistent. What's the word that I want to use? A consistent pixelization where everything is the same. That's not what is going on here. This is a friggin' city. Yeah, it's a city, man. I'm telling you exactly. It's exactly what it is. And I sent you, if you look at the third email I sent, it's from another building nearby this city. The building itself is massive. It's one solid structure that's zoomed in. You can get a clear view of it. It's really absolutely amazing. I mean, it's just... And each window has a cross on it, on the fourth one, or the third one, I'm sorry, the third email. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting stuff. Okay, I'm looking at, so I've got I've got Venus picture 2, and then 3 is, let's go, I'm going to post image number 2. 3 is the Burj Khalifa. I'm sorry. So maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's 4. Here, 4. Venus image 4 is the one that the bigger, one solid structure in one image. You can see the railing and everything there as well. What is now? Are the crosses? Okay. I'm going to post picture number 2, which is the side views. Yeah. That's pretty interesting too. While I'm posting this, tell everybody what they're about to see. Well, you're about to see some structures that are on the surface of Venus, which are very, very bizarre because, again, there should be nothing there, but these almost look like craft. They have geometry to them. They have bends and curves to them. They appear to be sitting on top of the surface of Venus itself. These images are hosted directly on the gsu.edu website for hyperphysics. These are the official images. In other words, these aren't
any edited or photoshopped images. The source link is provided. I sent the source link in the image to Jimmy. And if you really analyze these anomalies with a magnifying glass or zoom in, it's going to be, it's really amazing. It's really astounding what you see here, because to me, it looks like a vehicle sitting by a tower, another vehicle standing alone, and towards the bottom of the image is something really bizarre that I just put a question mark on because I can't figure out what it is. It just doesn't look like a bunch of rocks to me. And this is on the surface of Venus. What is it doing there?
And this, the third image, which is a comparison of Dubai, here on Earth. Mm-hmm. This is, I don't even, this is exactly what I'm thinking about when I look at this, is that it is definitely terrestrial, with the cul-de-sacs and the curves.
Right.
That's pretty incredible, man. Pretty incredible. I'm posting up 3 now. Now, with the fourth image that you sent, man, this is okay. I want to go back to image number 2 really quick. That again, that doesn't look like pixelization, and there's a shadow that is cast from both of these structures, whatever they are. I mean, what else could? And if it's pixelization, which I always try to figure out what's going on. But you have legs, something is supporting this structure, and it looks like there's windows too as well.
Right. It's crazy. I mean, to me, they look like craft of some sort or some type of vehicle maybe that maneuvers around the surface of the planet maybe. They're just very bizarre, and they, like you said, they have shadow, and this is all, this isn't any crazy Photoshop. So I provide the source link. I mean, anybody can go look it up. It's not just for me. I want the world to find these things.
Now, in the fourth image, which I'm about to post up to as well right now, the crosses that are there appears to be, 4 or 5?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And could that be an alignment crosshair with the camera or maybe the computer system?
You're talking about image number 4?
Yeah.
No, those are there. And anywhere you go on the, the reason why it can't be is because these aren't camera images, first of all. These are radar images. So how we got these images where we took a radar scan of the entire planet. So as the planet rotated on its axis, we did a deep penetrating radar scan at usgs.gov and stored all the data there. So this is a complete radar image of what's on the surface.
So it's not a picture, it's radar.
It's radar. These are radar images, yeah. That bypasses any type of camera lens anomaly.
This is pretty incredible, man.
Yeah, I know.
The images that I have, everybody, I don't want to bum you out, but Billy sent me the really, really big ones. And when you send these over and post them on Twitter, they're small. Okay, they're nothing like what I'm looking at here. So there's a string of 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me bounce back to my 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like 5, 6 crosses in this image. There could be more. Wow.
It's really amazing stuff. And the building itself, the structure itself is a pretty massive structure. And how we know the sizes is because there's a measuring tool. So I'm going to send you a 5th email that actually has a screenshot of the actual USGS.gov tool that's used to find these images from Venus, so that you can see that what you're looking at is in this screenshot of the actual tool from USGS.gov, not something that, that's just fabricated. I'm going to send it to you. This is right from my desktop here, and I just screenshotted it, and I'm going to send this to you right now. And these structures are all over the place on the surface. It's really amazing stuff, and, it blows people's minds when they see this. Not that many people have seen it, but it's, it's really amazing stuff. Venus 5.
I am blown away.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to make of what I'm looking at. Okay, let's say, so these are radar images. Is there a possibility, except for this one in image number 4, that 45-degree angle at the top of this building is pretty dang interesting?
Yeah.
That doesn't look natural. And I'm just wondering if these could be some type of superheated lava tubes or something underneath the surface that organically form these right angles. And these.
Listen, anything is possible because we're not there. But what we can do is we can forensically analyze it and say, based on what we know, this looks like a city from space, looking down from high up, 5 or 10 miles up is what it looks like, looking back down to the planet. Could it be just naturally forming structures? It could be. But wow, over that vast amount of space, because this one anomaly is 256 miles. This city is 256 miles across using the measuring tool provided by USGS.gov itself.
Right.
There's a tool in the actual program that lets you measure the distances. So I'm talking about, usually anomalies, okay. Maybe you can find some within a square mile or a square few meters, but for 256 miles, that's a big ass anomaly.
Right. Wow, this is really, really cool. This is really fun to look at. I don't know what I'm seeing here. To be honest with you, I don't know how to digest this. And certainly going back to the first image, I don't know if there's any other way to explain this except for this was manufactured. I don't see this being natural. And the other part about this is you can see the natural terrain on the outside, but here concentrated in the middle is nothing more than a city or a large town. There's no other way to explain it.
Right. It's very interesting. And that cross is what stood out to me. That was what drew me into this area. As soon as I saw that cross, I said, what in the world am I looking at? And it kind of looks like it's attached to this structure, and it rises up above the structure into like a spire. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And so it's just mind-boggling. It really is just mind-boggling. It blew George Nuri away. It blew everybody at Gaia away. They just was wow. And when of course they vet everything. So when they went and looked it up themselves, and I showed them how to get to it through the tool, and they were like, wow, this is really here. This is amazing.
Yeah. This is
Now here's something really interesting you probably didn't know. Venera 14 landed on Venus, and it started recording. And it recorded something moving around in front of the actual probe, the lander. And it looked like a crab. And it walked around and it moved around. And then by the third day, it was completely gone. And you can find this easily by just looking up anomaly, Venera 14 anomaly, or Russian probe, Venus anomaly. You'll find it on YouTube. The official Russian Space Agency footage, unedited, unaltered. NASA's response to it was they think that it might have been a lens cap that fell off of their lander. Yeah, okay. This thing had legs, it had antenna, it had feet. It looked like a sort of like what we would call a land crab on the surface. What is that thing doing on there? If it's if it was real, it's there. Supposedly nothing can live there, but I think things can live there.
Yeah, that is this first image number 1. Mm-hmm. Now it says 256 miles across. Is that right?
Correct. Yep. 413 kilometers, 256 miles. I mean, if you post these on your Facebook, they'll be big when people click on the actual image individually. It'll turn into a full screen size image. They can see it a lot better on Facebook.
And I want to hear what people have to say about this. 747-228-2051. 747-228-2051. And if you're watching me on the video camera, you can see I'm not maintaining the phones over here like I should be. I'm looking at these images, and image number 1, the first one that I posted, that just look. If this was on Mars, people would be losing their minds.
Yeah.
If this was on the moon, they would be losing their minds. If this was in the Sahara Desert, people would be losing their minds. That's not natural, man.
No. And see, they can keep this hidden in plain sight because they've programmed us for decades that Venus is an inhospitable place and nothing can survive there. So in our minds, we've been so programmed, it's actually in our DNA now that, nothing can live there. Before you even think about, nothing can live there. Oh, new science that okay. Oh, nothing can live there. Even if you say, if NASA's changed their mind, nothing can live there. You see the programming, how powerful it is?
Right. Well, it works for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm in doubt right now. I'm looking at this. I'm thinking it's impossible. Well, I had read, it was about a year ago, where they were talking. A couple of things, a couple of notes on Venus. I just completed a series of documentaries on Venus and how the temperature change happened there. That definitely at one point, without question, it was just like Earth. Same temperatures, water, everything going on. There's no doubt about it. And then that this change happened there in the atmosphere recently. This is a recent change. Yeah. So if that is the case, when I say recent, 1 million or 2 million years ago, they're not even sure about that. Yeah. But if that's the case, certainly Venus had a few, maybe 4 billion years of evolutionary time, just like we had here on Earth. With the same atmospheric conditions that we have here on planet Earth. So what would stop, right? What would have stopped life there?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it could be a slight change or a slight shift in the orbit around the sun. Any movement in an orbit just by a few degrees can alter a planet's geology and weather pattern. That's very possible that an ancient body, a very large, massive body, as scientists now do believe, had come through our solar system in the ancient past and altered even some of the orbits of some of the planets here, and also even gravitationally pushed Uranus, I believe, on its side, or Neptune on its side, one of those two. So that planet orbits the equator, spins north to south, not east to west. So it's kind of a weird scenario. They believe that something came through our solar system, something really massive with a lot of gravity millions of years ago, and altered the orbits of the planets here. And that could be one of the reasons why I believe, we've got these anomalies in terms of the geology. But Venus itself, according to the stranger at the Pentagon, Valiant Thor, came from Venus. And that was in modern times. That was just a few decades ago. And that was the thing when I researched the stranger at the Pentagon, this Valiant Thor character. I said, well, do we have any Venus images? Nobody was looking at them. And even in my anomaly hunting group, nobody was looking at Venus. I said, well, let me see if there's anything from Venus. And I just started Googling Venus images. And I found the USGS.gov database, and I started digging into them. And I was like, oh, my God, what in the world is going on here? So really, I got sparked by that book, Stranger at the Pentagon, talking about Valiant Thor. And that's in recent times that he claims he's from Venus. And according to these images, now I really kind of believe it, to be honest with you.
Well, you go back to George Van Tassel, right? Right here, Giant Rock out in Joshua Tree in Landers, California. And his experience, which is well documented, he's talked about it many, many times, but he built an airstrip out there next to to Giant Rock. I have been there. It's a pretty unique place, and it's something that you just don't expect. People say, Giant Rock, right? And they talk about it until you go out there and stand next to it and see it. There's nothing that can prepare you for that. But he's out there at Giant Rock, and he gets woken up in the middle of the night, and he goes out, and right there is a craft parked. And he goes over and he meets them, and they were like, hey, we're from Venus, and You want to go for a ride? And he goes in and describes the interior of the craft like nothing I've ever heard before. And when you think about this, in 1951, 1952, this kind of description of the control panels and everything else. But it was Venus. And all of this got dismissed because of what we were later told about the surface temperatures of Venus, where you immediately just go, it's just fantasy. But looking at these pictures here, wow, I'm not 100% convinced, Billy. But you know what? If something would tip the scales, no. What I mean, this is a pretty good shot here. I didn't expect that. I really didn't.
It's a lot to digest, But now let's look into the ancient text. If you go into the ancient text, then you got to look at the information about Ishtar, and Venus is actually considered the star of Ishtar in the ancient Sumerian tablets, which were discovered out of Iraq. And it was her planet. Venus was actually her planet that she ruled over as well, which is kind of interesting. So it's mentioned in the ancient Sumerian tablets as a planet that's habitable, that this Ishtar Anunnaki woman / Atlantean actually ruled over and was the king of the planet.
Let's go back to the phones. I've been ignoring the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
How's it going there, Jimmy?
It's going good. Who's calling?
This is Matt from Winnipeg, Manitoba. You're what do you call it? Your friend there for the Mandela effect.
Right on, Matt. What have you got for Billy Carson tonight?
Okay, so I've been looking at the Venus photos here that you had described, and I'm curious. What are your intake on the fact is, what if we had, Ed Cornwell's idea of an electric universe? Like, what happens if some of the catastrophes could have happened if we looked at Saturn being a second sun that's lost its electric potential and has changed the orbit of our planets, causing to have, electrostatic discharges that's carved out all the planets? What's to say that some of these images on the radar could have been a potential carving or discharge of those electrical currents caused by, plasmic discharge in our solar system? You know where I'm getting at with this?
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. Listen, that's another possibility. We can't rule anything out because why? We're not there. We're only going by images that were taken by radar. And there are official images. They are an official site, and they're not being obviously promoted to the general population. Like, here, come look at our images, but you can go to the links and find them. So it's up to us to discern what's there. And I think it's very healthy to have an open mind and throw out a lot of different theories as to what this might be and what these anomalies might be, where they came from, or how they got there. It's a great concept. I mean, even when you were saying that, I started thinking, well, what if we lost some of the power from, like, for example, Jupiter, and that was the energy that was needed to sustain the weather patterns on Venus in a specific way. I mean, there's all different types of things that it could be, that caused this. Maybe when Tiamat exploded, several hundred million years ago, which is actually now the asteroid belt. Maybe that explosion had something to do with, with altering Venus's atmosphere or its geology. There's so many different things that it could be, and I think it's very healthy to throw out all the different options that are out there and not just say this is exactly what it is, because we're not there. I just know that it's an anomaly. It's something that's out of place to me that I would like to dig into deeper and find out more. I'd like to get more data and science data and information about what could have possibly formed anomalies that look like this, So I'm glad that you brought it up.
Well, Velikovsky talked about this too as well. And in his book, not necessarily the electric universe, but that our solar system and where Venus sits right now, and Mars and Earth and our moon, were all interrupted, and interrupted recently, not a long time ago. That the positions of everything now, in the way that he put it in Worlds in Collision, made a lot of sense to a lot of people, including myself, where I just thought everything just kind of bumped into each other. And that's how things changed and how they were created, not necessarily since the beginning, 4.5 billion years ago. And I've often felt that, and this is the thing, Matt, you bring up one of the best points that we can ever bring up. Ask anybody really how the Earth was created. Mm-hmm. They can't tell you, right?
Yeah, I know.
Ask them how the moon or any of the planet. It's all theory. Some of it's based on pretty solid theory. Yeah, I agree with that. But honestly, nobody really knows.
Right.
Well, what really gets to me is that, 1973? I think Billy might know this. Werner von Braun's, one of their engineers, showed that big carving that went across Mars, for instance. Had an electrostatic discharge to it that had a particular formation of a pattern that does not seem to duplicate water. But what would duplicate is in a laboratory experiment, if you were to take, let's say, like a 3-inch long electric charge or an electrostatic charge of, say, 30,000 volts, and you were to run it across sand with a bunch of rock that simulates the surface of Mars, you would find that there is a particular edge pattern to it that is like perfectly identical to not only what happened on Mars, but also the Grand Canyon right here on Earth. Yeah. And you start looking at the big lumps that you see on the top of the surface. Well, what happens if you have an accident with your welder? You start seeing these big, huge blister effects and little, beads that sort of spray all over your metal objects or your metal, what do you call it? Projects that you're working on. Yeah. And you start zooming out of that process, and you look at Mars, and you're like, the experiments that seem to show that they're repeatable. They keep on duplicating it. Well, I'm sorry, but stars just don't seem to be nuclear to me. So if Venus and Mars and the Sun and Saturn were all a part of a sort of a different network, and very recently. It's very hard to include a lot of radical theories when you've got so much evidence that is repeatable in a laboratory.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, another possibility on top of that is, the Enuma Elish and the Seven Tablets of Creation, the Atrahasis epic talk about, and also the Mahabharata, these ancient galactic wars. And one of the things that I was writing about more recently for a show that I'm getting ready to do on DTV is the fact that I thought that the Grand Canyon and also the gigantic, massive canyon on Mars were both potentially carved out by some type of massive weapon, some type of a kind of like a Death Star type of a situation. I'm not really saying that's what happened. I'm actually asking the question, could it be a weapon that carved out these, these massive gapes in our planet and also on Mars? So it's kind of the question that I'm kind of postulating in this show that I'm writing right now about these gigantic canyons that we see. And it's very possible. And another thing that I talk about in my lectures is the fact that our solar system itself just really arrived here in more recent times. Geological timescales, of course, a blink of an eye when you're talking about a few 100 million years or so. But we don't originate inside of the Milky Way galaxy, and we're still merging with the Milky Way galaxy. We are part of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. This is now peer-reviewed official science now being taught in schools. So the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, which is a much smaller galaxy, is in the process still right now of merging with the Milky Way. And they've pinpointed where our solar system is located as one of the merger points, which dropped us directly into here on this outer band that we're located at now, making us ourselves, our entire solar system, alien to this Milky Way galaxy.
Matt, thank you for the phone call.
No problem. Go back, Lee Tepe, buddy.
Go back, Lee Tepe. Thank you so much, Matt. And can I get you to hang on, Billy? Let's do some overtime. Yeah. This is Fade to Black, and if you are on hold, stay right there. This is night one of our call-in week here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Billy Carson. Tomorrow night, Travis Walton. We'll be right back. More of your phone calls right after this short break. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. KGRA The Planet. Tonight, UPN just added to our syndicators. Hello, UPN. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back. An amazing show tonight with Billy Carson. Night one of our call-in week here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Billy Carson. Tomorrow night, Travis Walton. Wednesday night, Whitley Strieber. Thursday night, Richard Dolan. Big, huge week here on Fade to Black. And Billy, I want to thank you. I know you've got a very busy day tomorrow ahead of you. And thank you for heading into overtime. And let's go straight back to the phones. You ready?
Yeah.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? Say hi to Billy Carson. You're live.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yes.
Hey, Jimmy. It's Tasmaniac.
Hey, Taz, calling from Tasmania. All right. What have you got for Billy? Hey, Taz, what have you got for Billy tonight?
Okay. Hey, Billy, just want to say thank you. You got great work, mate, and love it. Watch all your videos. I was just wondering, I'm looking about, we've got these pictures like petroglyphs all over the world, Africa, Australia, Peru, everywhere of these stick figures, the stick figure man with the two dots on either side. And then we've got plasma experiments. Have you ever seen any of them?
Perret's, what do you call them? Plasma experiments?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of those.
They match these hieroglyphs perfectly. And, when you've got the artist renditions of the solar outburst and the solar winds against the Earth, they look exactly like, especially the spider on the Nazca lines. I just want to know what your thoughts are on those things.
Well, I've been into the Nazca lines. I've flown over them. I've seen petroglyphs now all over the world. And I'm going to go check out some more in a few weeks in Australia in this place called Carryong 9. But it's pretty interesting that what you're saying in terms of these energetic patterns that kind of mimic these glyphs. Petroglyphs is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I need to look into that. That's something that I can actually honestly say, because I don't like to just make up stuff off the top of my head. I haven't seen the correlation, so I needed to research it and check it out a little bit deeper so that I can see exactly what you're talking about, so that I can, intelligently talk about it.
Now, and while we've got Taz on the line, although he's not exactly from Australia right now, he's in Tasmania, but close enough.
Down under.
Yeah, he's from down under. Yeah, but Carryong 9, and we haven't talked much about Egypt tonight, but there are remnants of an Egyptian temple there, or allegedly that's what they are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I've known about it for the past 6 years. I've been trying to get there. Finally, I'm finding out from the Strong brothers that land is privately owned and potentially up for sale. So I'm trying to get there now as fast as I possibly can within the next few months, which kind of works out good because it's their summer right now as we're going into our winter here. And out there, about 2.5 miles north of Sydney, out in the woods, there's this huge plot of land that has a trench, what looks like a trench, but it's two side walls of an Egyptian temple that are the roof has been already dilapidated and broken and gone. But both sides of these walls have hieroglyphs dating back thousands of years in many layers.
You're talking about Gimpy.
What's that, Taz?
Are you talking about the Gimpy, the pyramids in Gimpy with the I can't remember the guy's name who done the Mungo done the studied on it.
Oh no, not that one. I know which one you're talking about, but this is out in Carryong 9, out in the woods, and it's kind of like partially buried. When you walk down into this trench area, and on both sides, left and right, there's these gigantic granite walls that have hieroglyphs carved into them from many different people that visited there, going back thousands of years.
Is that the story of the two brothers?
Yes, the story of the two brothers. Correct. Yes.
Well, I'm excited about this. I can't wait to hear about it when you get back. Take lots of pictures. Taz.
I will, yeah.
Thank you for the phone call, my brother.
The glyph that I was talking about, they call him the Squatter Man. That was the glyph that I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
The Squatter Man. I'll send that to Billy now.
The Squatter Man. Yeah.
Okay.
And look up Perat, PERATT, plasma studies.
Okay, I typed it in. I'm going to look it up right away. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. And I'll be bringing back a lot more information when I get back from Australia.
Jimmy, love your work. Love your work, Jimmy. Love your work, Billy. And hello, all fighting North. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Taz.
Go Beckley Tepe.
Go Beckley Tepe, all the way from Tasmania, coming in strong. Peretz, I'm going to look that up too as well. Peretts, Peretts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And Carryong 9, and that's right next to Sydney. And it's a suburb too as well. I wonder if they even know there what's lurking out there in the woods. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
This is Scott. Jimmy, how are you?
Hey, Scott. Say hi to Billy.
Hi, Billy. Glad to talk to you again.
Yes, absolutely. How you doing?
I'm very good. I met you at Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles a few years back.
Yeah, he remembers, Scott.
Does he?
Okay.
Well, let me just tell you something. You guys, I could listen to you guys for days talking about what you do and everything. And I remember as a kid, and I will not disclose what happened to me as a teenager, a young teenager, but I can tell you something. I found solace in a phrase that came across me, and it was, "In my house there are many mansions." And it made me think about that maybe we are not alone, but there are just many possibilities of different life forms around us. And what is so crazy to me is that there is so much doubt about our life here on this planet. But you got to look at it this way. What is the average life of a human being here on Earth? How much time do we influence those that are around us to make perfection within our minds? And then look at it this way. When is the last time our world was at complete peace? Was it ever at complete peace? And you know what, Billy and Jimmy, you can debate about this all you want. Where do you see the world going from here? I mean, are we ever going to get peace on this earth? Is these beings, these cherubims going around trying to preserve the seed of mankind before this whole planet is destroyed? And I don't mean to scare everybody or even suggest that that's going to happen, but I don't see a good future for us with all this just anger and tension going on right now in today's world. It wasn't like this 20 years ago, Jimmy, and you know it, and I know it.
Well, sometimes you got to stare it in the face, right? If you go back, I'm going to make, then I want Billy's opinion on this, but I'll steer this in another direction. You just asked, when was the last time we were at peace? I will say this, that Egypt, all the way through going into 1500 BC, Egypt for over 1,000 years, 1,000, no wars. They didn't, and when you get up into Nefertiti, and when they went back into Ra and dismantled the Orthodox religions that they had back then, with all of the priests running these different temples, and they had multiple gods and so forth. When that went down, Akhenaten and that period, it was all about art. It was the arts. It was about creativity and progressing forward. They did all of that without war. That didn't happen when the different, the Persians and the Hittites, when they looked at Egypt, like, man, these guys are lay down dudes. They don't even have an army, right? Yeah. Yep. and they don't even have weapons. Everything was for defensive reasons there, but they didn't have they weren't fighting. They weren't fighting wars. There wasn't an expansionism or anything coming out of Egypt. So I will say that, Scott, that we have to go back that far, but the Egyptians got it. They understood, right, Billy?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you look at the the Dogon tribe, who were the original inhabitants of the land of Kem, which later became called Egypt. They migrated out to Mali, Africa. And if you go and investigate them now, they are a civilization that doesn't have police officers. They don't have military. They don't have anything. And there's never theft, and there's never any crime. They have no crime. If somebody makes a mistake and damages something of someone else's, they have a quick town meeting, and a solution is provided, and the debt is paid off, and everybody goes back about their business. There's not even fights. There's no infighting. There's nothing. So, and that's currently today still going on. So now, if you want to look at planetary peace, you have to go back all the way to the last golden age. So we're right now in the Tetra Yuga, according to my research, and moving up, which is the Silver Age. We're at the very beginning of it, very beginning of the Silver Age. And at some point, we will head back into another golden age because civilizations are cyclical. According to Thoth himself, he said that he watched civilizations rise and fall all over the universe, all over the galaxy. So basically, I do believe that there's an era and time where there will be full peace on Earth. And what our job is to do is to begin to teach people unconditional love for one another, and how to respect people, how to treat people, how to help people, be of service to others. And that will propagate through future generations and help and eventually usher us back into a golden age where there'll be an extended period of no wars on the planet. Peace and unity and love and everything else will be happening during that time frame. And the question is, how long can we sustain it? Can we keep that golden age permanently this time, or will we fall back down into another cycle of darkness? That is the big question. However, there will be another time on this planet where there will be peace on Earth.
Yeah, I agree with that, Billy. And Scott, like I said, sometimes you've got to go to the edge. You got to go right to the edge and stare this stuff in the face, and mature out of that. And I'll give you another example, Scott. If you look back at the Cuban Missile Crisis, we went right to the edge. And this planet was freaking out. Right. And you know what's really bizarre? That we came out of that, wiped our brow, like, whoo, okay, that was close. But nuclear weapons are still there. And we have been living day to day. We all know that the possibility of ending life on this planet is real. We could do it. But we have we don't lose sleep like we did in 1963, 1962, and at the height of real world nuclear tensions. I can't imagine what families were going through, what parents were going through, and the thought of that. And today, even though we know that same threat is there, we're more in a comfortable zone, and we've matured out of that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And we need to continue this mindset to move forward, because living now with the tensions that are here, we can feel it, man. We can see the tension, and sometimes you have to stare it in the face.
Well, these are weapons of flesh and blood. Did the Egyptians, at that 1,000-year period where they had peace, was there something more that they understood that we do not today, that was keeping them at peace than what we have at weapons at flesh and blood? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you guys do.
Well, I'll defer that over to Billy, but my immediate response to that is that what they understood, what they believed was that expansionism, conquering their neighbors, was not part of what life was about. Life was about discovery, knowledge, education, and certainly religion. But all of that came into play. But what they didn't waste their time and energy and resources on was war. That was not part of their game. That just wasn't part of the game. And they flourished. Yeah. They flourished. Everything
So
was on go.
What changed? What changed, you guys?
They got invaded.
What made us hate one another?
They got invaded 7 times.
Today?
Yeah, they got invaded. They got conquered. They got conquered by everybody.
Everybody came through there.
Everybody.
Okay, so today, let's make it today. What can't we not refer to one another as to get on the same page as one another today? Greed?
Well, the capitalistic society, the capitalistic system is detrimental to humans. It's a bad system. We need a new economic system on this planet, and we have to do away with fiat countries. The true answer to your question is, globally, we have to stop playing the game of the elites. And how do we stop playing the game? There has to come a day where we all come together and realize that we're all brothers and sisters, and we being the citizens, because you have to realize the people that are putting out the majority of the detriment on this earth are telling us, some of us in different areas of work, to go out and do this, go out and kill these people, go out and blow these people up, go out and do this. Right. They themselves don't do anything themselves. But when we stop playing the game, when the people that are working in these different militaries and these different police offices and so forth, and when the people around start realizing we have to love one another, and we stop playing the game of the elites, in other words, take our money out of the central banks, stop paying mortgages, stop paying car payments, stop going to work, don't go to work on Monday, stop paying taxes and all this kind of stuff. And we do that all at one time. Within 1 week, the whole system collapses. No war, no rioting, no picketing, no running up and down the street, breaking into places and screaming and crying in the streets. Just don't play the game anymore. When millions and millions of people do that at the same time, which will happen eventually in the future, there will be a new regime brought to this planet, a regime of peace and love, tranquility, barter and trade, maybe some type of level of anarchistic system with everybody's their own business person, trading back and forth. And how your rank in society will be how good you are at what you do. So that's in the future. But we have to continue to raise consciousness on this planet in order to get to that point.
Totally agree with that. I really do. I just don't know how to begin that. How do you begin with that, with everybody going against that? Because you're going to get pushback big time. And you got two factions here, greed and then people that care about one another. And you're not going to get those people to get on the same board.
No,
and that's
you
why
can't.
I think this place right here we live in is in prison planet.
Right. But if somebody says to me, Jimmy, we're going to go and do that, and it's not going to be all bad. You're still going to have your Ford Mustang V8 and Italian food. Then I'm in. And that's what I am saying. You have to
take it away from you, Jimmy.
You have to let everybody know you're not giving up everything that makes you happy. It's not about that. It's the shift that needs to happen, and this is what Billy's certainly talking about when we're talking about the elites. Most people don't understand the concept of that. When you have one person, controlling a hedge fund that lives in $150 million mansion in New York by themselves, right, with a net worth of a few $1 billion, but yet and not paying taxes on that money. That right there is so much of that going on that it's not filtering back down to society that needs that money. And that's the part of a capitalistic system that doesn't work. And that doesn't work for the system. So if you are going to, and I'm being very direct, if you're going to go and feel that you need to have $5 billion, right? And you want to say that you're worth $5 billion, then $2.5 billion of it goes back to the people. And
I agree.
And
I
giving
totally agree.
And giving up that money, you're not going to starve, bro.
Right. I know. You're not going to starve, for sure. How much money is enough money at that point, How much money is enough money? But my point, where do we go? Where do we go from here? I mean, where does this end? Where does this end? Where do we go? If we can solidify all these people and solve all our problems, where do we go in the end?
What do you mean?
Well, if everybody was equal, where do we go from here?
But everybody, okay. Everybody's not equal. Everybody's not equal. Everybody's not equal.
I agree.
And what I mean by that is some people put into the system, some people don't. Some people take, and some people give. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's equal. And to make this, I'm going to be very direct on something else.
Hypothetically.
If you take the ability of desire and quest away from everybody, right?
Sure.
And no effort, where does progress come from? If everybody is able to just sit around and eat and not do anything all day long, where does the desire to learn and to progress come from?
Laziness.
So that part, and that's in our DNA, right? I mean, everybody wants to win the lottery and play video games all day long, and when that happens to them, what happens? Their life falls apart, right?
Yeah.
And there's that famous quote. I remember. I don't know if it's what's his name from the Dallas, Mark Cuban, or somebody goes, what sucks about being a billionaire? Nothing, right? And I get
the world. Right. Can Billy and Jimmy? Can the world correct itself?
Of course it can.
It will.
It is correcting itself right now.
Yeah.
Really?
I totally believe that.
Within all the chaos that we have.
That's what I'm saying. That you've got to see the chaos. You've got to see it.
I want to interject real quick. The chaos that you're seeing right now is not the most chaos that has ever been in this era of this planet. In other words, within the last 500,000 years, there's been more chaotic situations. What's happening now is with the advance of technology that we have available to our fingertips, it's not that things are getting worse. They're becoming more obvious.
Visible.
That's right.
That's absolutely right.
I like that.
Hey, Scott, I want to thank you for the phone call, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation, guys. I love you both. I can listen to you for 16 days.
Okay, we'll do that in the future. Thank you so much, Scott. And but Billy, you're absolutely right. If you go back in time, you can go back to almost any decade, any century, and see some crazy periods of this planet. Crazy, destructive, insane.
Let's talk just about the Papal Inquisition. I mean, 80 million people killed over 700 years. I mean, come on. They made Hitler Hitler looks like an angel compared to these people.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Hey, Billy, great night, man, tonight. Yeah. And really quick, I know that you've got your Egyptian mystery school that you're doing over at Dame Dash. Can you tell us about that really quick?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We had school session number 1 in October, and it was amazing. It was standing room only. People were taking 25 and 30 pages of notes. It was 12 hours of hardcore teaching. We had some entertainment there. We had billboard artists there performing. Dame Dash even got on the stage and performed for the people. They really got their money's worth. We fed them well. We have session number 2 coming up. Totally new information, still in the mystery school status on December 7th and 8th. And you can register on forbiddenknowledge.com with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.com. We still have some seats available. There will be some celebrities in the house at this event as well, actually in the class. So it's a very intimate setting, and it's a very small setting. And it's really, I shake everybody's hand, talk to everybody. But I got on stage for 6 hours each day and dropped knowledge and secret information and the mysteries for 12 total hours. And it was absolutely amazing. People felt like they said on the second day, they felt like they went through a healing process. So if you can register for it, you better hurry because seats are limited.
And it's December 7th and 8th. It's right here in Burbank, Studio City area. And one of those celebrities might be me. Thank you so much, Billy. I just enjoy hanging out with you. It's always a great night. And thank you for kicking off this amazing 4-day week here on Fade to Black.
Thank you. I appreciate you, man.
Now go back to work.
All right, I will.
Billy Carson. And Billy's links are right there at jimmychurchradio.com. Click and go and check it out. Again, Dame Dash Studios, December 7th and 8th. Thank you, Billy. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Right on, Billy Carson. And that wraps tonight. What a great night here on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, right here, Travis Walton, open lines all night long. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Now on UPN. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2019 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night, night 2 of Open Lines Week on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, Travis Walton. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Have a great night. Be safe. Go Backley Tappy.